Hello everyone, good morning. So my name is Shibly Shahirier. I'm from Bangladesh. So currently I'm a researcher at Research Institute for Humanity and Nature. So I completed my PhD in economics from Kochi University of Technology in 2018, March 2018. Immediately after that, I returned back to Bangladesh and joined Brac University in Bangladesh as a assistant professor of economics and worked there for 1 year and 9 months. Then I returned back here again. So Raja has presented how human societies are evolving over time. So what I'm going to present is some empirical and experimental evidence from a developing country which has been changing over time. That means modernizing under democracy and market economy. So how this change affect individuals' preference, social preference. Here social preference means the level of pro-sociality or level of competition or cooperation. So with modernization, how these things change and how it affects intergenerational sustainability, decision for intergenerational sustainability. So and what we need to do. So because of this change, people might endanger intergenerational sustainability and we might need a kind of mechanism. So first thing is, societies in Asia and Africa are modernizing in a faster speed. And past studies of cultural evolution shows that change in culture changes human behavior as well. So when societies simply modernize under market and democracy, a kind of idea of competition might spread out. So we need to compete to survive in a competitive society, or we might need to compete for our success in a highly competitive society. So this idea might simply propagate from brain to brain, and that might make people more competitive. So if this is the case, this will affect our decision for intergenerational sustainability. As Raja explained, intergenerational sustainability is unidirectional. So unidirectional means what we do affect the future generation, but the opposite is not true. That simply means to maintain intergenerational sustainability, we need to act pro-sociality. We need to show some pro-sociality to the future generation. So if people become more competitive, they might like to selfishly maximize their own generation's payoff and incur an irreversible cost to the future generations. So if this is the case, we might need a new mechanism in modernized societies of Asia and Africa to maintain sustainability. So this is simply the framework. So I will start with the first issue. So I have simply implemented a series of experiments and surveys in Bangladesh to answer this question. How does the ongoing modernization of competitive societies affect human social preference? So again, social preference means the level of pro-sociality or the preference for the level of competition or cooperation. So we hypothesize that when societies simply develop under market and democracy, an idea of competition for survival and success propagate from brain to brain that makes people more competitive. Like this one, people are making small boats by destroying a big boat. So they're making their own boat to survive, or they're making their own boat for the success. So to examine this fact, we have implemented a social value orientation experiment advanced by Van Lange et al. In 3 types of Bangladeshi societies. One is Dhaka, the modernized one. This is the capital. So one is the semi-urban area or transitional, which is Bogura, and another one is less modernized, which is Dakop. So let me show you the map. So here in the middle one is Dhaka, which is the capital. So Bogura is on the up. This is simply the transitional society, and the last one, so less urbanized and less modernized one, is Dakop. So this Dakop is simply adjacent to the world's largest mangrove forest, Sundarban. So people here basically depend on the resources of the Sundarban for their survival. So probably this society consists of wood collectors, honey collectors, and so on and so forth. So this is what we did. This is the experiment, social value orientation experiment. So in this experiment, a subject need to choose one option among these three. So you receive 500 and the other receive 100. So other is simply an unknown other that is not known to the subject. So option 2 is you receive 500 and the other receive 500. So third one is you receive 560 and the other receive 300. So these three options simply represents three value orientation. The first one is competitive. That means you want to maximize the gap between yourself and the other. So second one is you want to maximize the joint payoff, 500 and 500. And the third one is you want to maximize your payoff, but you are simply not that bad like the first one. That means you are not harming the other like the one in the first option. So this is called individualistic value orientation. So a subject need to answer 9 such questions with these 3 orientations, and if the subject's 6th choice out of the 9 is similar to one of the orientation, that subject is simply recognized as a person with that orientation. So this is how we simply calculate the payoffs. Say for example, here as a subject, if you choose, so where, if you choose option A, that means you choose 480 for you and you give 80 to the other. In the same way, if your pair, so we randomly pair one subject with another after the experiment. So in this case, if your subject choose option C, that means your point will be 480, the point that you get from your selection plus the point that you receive from the other. So this is how we simply calculate the payoff, and this is the result. So in the Dhaka, majority of the people are competitive and individualistic. So competitive is 32% and individualistic is 32%. In the transitional society, many of the people are unidentified. Unidentified means they do not belong to any of the value orientation. And in the Dhaka, majority of the people are pro-social. That means when societies evolve, so goes from less urbanized to highly urbanized, or goes from less modernized to highly modernized, people become more competitive. And what we think, because people become more competitive with urbanization or modernization, that must affect their decision for intergenerational sustainability. So let's see how this change affect their decision for intergenerational sustainability. So this is second issue. So change in social preference, modernization and intergenerational sustainability. Now we will see how this change in social preference affect intergenerational sustainability or decision for intergenerational sustainability. So there are few things. So I want to mention 2 things here. The first one is Saijo 2015 simply hypothesized that competition and market negatively affect intergenerational sustainability, and our paper, the one that I have presented, the result that I have presented, found that people become more competitive with ongoing modernization. So the first study of intergenerational sustainability is this one, Kamijo et al. 2017, and my experiment simply follows this one with imaginary future generations. So one by one I will explain. So this is the question. So I have explained this one already. Oh, sorry. Oops. So this is the methodology I have implemented. So this game has been already explained by Raja, so I will briefly explain. So I have implemented 14 sessions of intergenerational sustainability in urban areas and 14 sessions in the rural area. So probably this game has been explained. So say for example, the first generation can choose either A or B. So if the first generation chooses A, the subsequent generations payoff reduced by 300 points. If generation A chooses option B, there is no change in the payoff. So in the same way, say for example, first generation chooses A and second generation chooses B, there will be no change in the payoff for the third generation. It will remain the same. That means A is an unsustainable option and B is a sustainable option. So we have also implemented this the 7 sessions and 7 sessions both in urban and rural with a imaginary future generation treatment. So imaginary future generation treatment simply means assigning a member in each generation as the representative of the future generation. So this guy will not only think about her own generation's payoff, but also think about the future generation's payoff and introduce this idea in the group discussion. So each generation is given up to 10 minutes of time for their discussion and take 2 decisions. One is choice between A and B and how to split the payoff among the group members. So these are the results you can see. So in the urban area, only 29%, so say for example 30% of the generation chooses B, but in the rural area, almost 80% of the generation chooses sustainable option B. So that means rural people can maintain sustainability, what our result shows. So this is the result with and without imaginary future generation treatment. So this one is showing that in rural areas that IFG or the representative of the future generation treatment increases the intergenerational choice of intergenerational sustainable option a bit, but not in the urban area. It cannot induce the urban people to maintain intergenerational sustainability, especially in Bangladesh. So why simply rural people choose more sustainability is because the number of pro-social people. So this one is showing the number of pro-social people per generation. So if you look at here, so 53 out of the 84 generations in urban society consist of only pro-self people. Pro-self means competitors and individualists. However, in the rural area, to 34 and 34 generations, almost all the generations at least have 1 or 2 pro-social member. So when the number of pro-social member in a generation increases, the probability of choosing sustainable option also increases. So this is the result from the first experiment, but this experiment, we have seen in this experiment that the IFG cannot maintain intergenerational sustainability, especially in the modernized society Dhaka. That's why we thought about another mechanism. This mechanism is called future ahead and back mechanism. So in this case, so a generation, the member of a generation first need to think about they're the member of the future generation, so next generation. So from that point, they will request the current generation to choose either A or B. So in the second step, they will return back to their actual position and again choose between A and B. So first step, request to the previous generation. Second step is choice from their actual position. So if these 2 choices matches with each other, say for example, I request the previous generation to choose B and I also select B from my actual position. So they are done. So their choice is B. However, if these 2 choices doesn't match, that means they request their previous generation to choose B, but they select A. In this case, the decision will be made by means of majority voting. So this is the new mechanism. So we also did a kind of individual interview after the group discussion. So what would you choose without this group discussion and what you choose after the group discussion? So this is the result. So this is a basic ISDG, that means without any treatment. Only 30% of the generation choose B. So with IFG, 29% of the generation choose B. However, under this FAB, 41 out of 48, that means 85% of the generation in the competitive society of Dhaka chooses option B. That means this IFG can maintain intergenerational sustainability at least in a field experiment. So in our previous experiment, what we have seen that the urban societies consist of a majority of pro-self people, that means competitors and individualists. That also means to change people's decision to maintain sustainability, a mechanism must change this pro-self people's decision of choosing A to B. That means their decision must be changed. So intuitively they like to choose option A, but some mechanism must change their decision into B. So this one is showing. So when society, when a generation consists of only pro-self people, under basic ISDG, 11% of the generation choose sustainable option. Under IFG, 3% of the generation choose sustainable option. However, under FAB, 80% of the generation choose sustainable option when the generations consist of only competitive people. That means this treatment can change competitive people's mindset, that can change their initial decision of choosing unsustainable option. Now they are choosing sustainable option. So this is how this mechanism works, by changing competitive people's decision, initial decision of choosing A. So now under this treatment they are choosing B. So this is the result. Probably this one I will not explain, so I have explained everything here. So this is the conclusion. FAB is successful to maintain intergenerational sustainability in a highly modernized society. So why this one works? So one reason can be the feeling of pain. When I put you in the position of next generation, you can feel the pain of the next generation. That's why you request the current generation to do something good. So hereafter, when you return back, after returning back, you need to logically synchronize your decision. So I request someone to choose B. Now, if I am here, I need to choose B to make it logically synchronized. So this is another reason. So first reason is feeling the pain of the future generation. Another one is logic-based reasoning. So this one can be used to solve the public goods problem in intertemporal nature. So that's the conclusion. Thank you.
We have 10 more minutes, so any question or comments?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question regarding your comparison between the rural area and urban area. So when you do an experiment in like the rural areas, isn't like the degree of anonymity different compared to when you do the experiment in urban areas?
So, okay, let's go back. So we have simply deal with it, anonymity across generations. So when we did this experiment in rural areas, we collect the subjects from different villages and gathered them in a experimental hall, so that this one is controlled. So so you are talking about anonymity across generations, right? So this is controlled. So we have deal with it by means of randomization and collecting subjects.
So first I ask the question. So your research question was how modernization make people pro-social, right? Affect pro-social. It's a causation research question. But so I think your experiment cannot answer this question.
Yes?
Your experiment, first experiment, cannot answer this question because you are looking at correlations. So maybe people...
So no, this is simply the result. I mean, simply the summary statistics. This paper has been published in PLOS ONE already. We have did all kind of correlation analysis, regression analysis. You can check the paper.
Yeah, but the correlation cannot say anything about
causation. So this is not causality. So I'm not saying this is causality. This is simple correlation. Yeah. So definitely it's not causality.
So maybe you may want to rephrase the research question that you posed in there.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Yeah. So probably yes.
I'm wondering that if you can reproduce this type of experiment using, say, a sequential dictator game.
Yeah, probably possible.
Yeah, we already know that the pro-sociality, I mean, say, for example, the altruism already show that the dictator wouldn't take all of the pie.
Yeah, I know this.
See?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what's the difference between the sequential dictator game and this intergenerational dilemma
So
game?
intergenerational sustainability or SBO game. So the one that measures pro-sociality, or so which one you were talking about? The one that measures pro-sociality?
No, I'm just wondering, any difference between the sequential dictator game and this intergenerational dilemma game?
So intergenerational sustainability dilemma game. So let's go to that. So here this is a simple choice experiment. The difference is here you can negatively affect the next generation. So that means it's simply your payoff changes. So if continuously a generation choose option A, the payoff will reduce by 300 points each time. Yeah, at each stage, it's a dictator game. So, yeah, intergenerational dictator game kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Anything?
By using this kind of game, I mean, can you find something different by using this game, not using the sequential dictator game?
So this one simply, so easy to explain, easy to implement in a kind of society where people are not that educated. So this is a simple choice experiment which is easy to implement. So there might be many other, so here, so to design same kind of thing, Hauser used a kind of intergenerational goods game. So simply this one also elicits people's behavior related to intergenerational sustainability. So this one is designed by Professor Saijo and we are using it continuously. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, okay. Sure.
So there are many comments from the professional economics.
Yeah.
So causality is a crucial thing. But for me, I'm a bureaucracy and a policy analyst and researcher. Well, I'd like to know about the future because in this session it's future design. So I'd like to know the external validity of this experiment. You showed in your hypothesis is proven through in your country. But
So no, okay, yeah.
Is it applicable to all over the world or especially in developing countries? Just like I mean, I'd like to know there is a norms a difference in all over the world. So is it how different the rate in each country? Of course, you cannot show now, but I would like to know your guess or hypothesis in the future in your research.
So first thing is that intergenerational sustainability dilemma is true for all the societies. And external validity, regarding the external validity, we have implemented this experiment in Japan, China, probably some parts of India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. So also similar kind of studies have been done in US, that's Hauser et al. So, and another thing is, so you want to know my hunch about the future. So that actually I cannot tell. So previously someone told here, we don't know the consequences. So something is uncertain. So the best thing is, if we can behave pro-socially to the future generation, that must be helpful for the society, that's all. But future, without knowing the future consequences, making a comment about future is tough. So simply I can change the game with uncertainty and see how the people react. So incorporating uncertainty in the game or strategy method or so on so forth. But commenting on future is not easy without knowing the consequences. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? So if there's no questions, it's a little bit early, but let's stop here and then go to the next presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah.